And good morning. Good morning for me in New Zealand. You'll be pleased to know that sunset's been delayed. Correction, sunrise has been delayed. And that means that she's a bit dark in the room. However, I've got a spare light on, so hopefully we've still got a little bit of light coming through. Today's session, going to be looking at the stuff that helps us understand where we're at. Just going to wait for a few of the team to come on board, and let's see where we go from there. Had a bit of a debrief after yesterday's session, so today I'm going to aim to keep it tight and focused. 30 minutes max. I'm going to be asking young Keith Donnelly when you come on board, mate. Let's see you there. No, not quite. Matt Hutt. Matt, could you help me please, mate? Could you give us a prompt at 25 minutes, if I've got to there and still talking, so that I can end this on that sharp 30 minutes. Hi Kev, how you going? Nice to have you here, mate. Today, something that's special to your heart, reference material. Going to be talking a little bit more about that than just the figure painting as such. So I've got a couple of folk on board. I've also added a little donation button at the bottom. Never done that before. I mentioned yesterday my grandfather. He was a very important man in my life, George Fellingham. If you want to know a little bit more about him, you can have a look at a short video on Facebook, correction, on YouTube. Tripping over my words a little bit this morning. On YouTube, where I shared a living with blindness video. Now, he was 40 when he turned blind. I was his only grandchild that he saw before he lost his sight. And so for the rest of my life and for the rest of his life, I only ever knew him as a blind man. And so I just wanted to call that out, because that whole sense of seeing without seeing is part of the thing that we should be grateful for and appreciate. And I don't know if any of you have got have got sight difficulty or got relatives with sight difficulty. I don't know. It's important to me. I was his first grandson, and we had a very special relationship. So that's why I got a little donation button on there. In terms of today, I'm going to be focusing on something that's away from the painting desk, which is over here. Light's not great on the old desk today, and I did make a lot of progress on our man Uncle. Spent a lot of time catching up with people. It was Mother's Day yesterday, so a lot of time online talking to people both around the world, as well as spending time with the kids, chatting about things, and spending time with my mum. Righto. So I shared a little photo before about what we're going to talk about, and we'll catch up on that shortly. First off, I'd like to do a little bit of an introduction. Got my notes over the side here. In terms of yesterday, this whole introduction thing, probably got a little bit self-indulgent, got myself a little bit carried away, had some feedback that it took too long to get into the meat of the topic. Okay, that's what it is. I do want to acknowledge people, because this is as much about me connecting with you as you connecting with me, and a chance to sort of build a bit of a rapport, build a bit of a community. You know, I spent a little bit of time talking last night to Jama from Spain, and you know, one of the things I realise is, you know, we talk about isolation, and when it comes to modelling, I've been in isolation for decades. We've all been living in some form of isolation recently, and I think it just really hones the mind. You have to think a bit more deeper about things, and that's part of what I want to try and share here. You would have picked it up yesterday. It's not just about showing you exactly what I do and for you to copy or replicate it in some way. It's actually going beyond that. And what I'd like to be able to do as part of this process is create an environment where you think more deeply about what you're doing. So yesterday's flesh and soul topic was, that's just not about painting, it's about thinking. And so today, how do you get that sort of inspiration? How do you get that sort of technical skill? How do you get that historical accuracy? Because that's the difference with what we're talking about. It's about historical work that we're actually doing. So I'm going to focus a little bit on that. I'm not going to apologise for saying hi to everybody. However, I'm going to be a little bit more streamlined. I'm going to pick some specific points in time where I'll go through, respond to you. If you do have questions, I will pick them up and I'll certainly get those along the way. And I'll also be keeping an eye out for young Matt, who will be giving me a time check around 25 minutes. The intention is finish this one at 30 minutes today. I've got working that I've got to get ready for and haven't had my breakfast. By the way, yeah, early start this morning. Didn't wake no, I did. Woke the missus up at 6. That's probably not going to land well. I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful today. I'm talking a little bit more quietly, so she's not too disturbed in the other room. All right, well, that's part of life. Let's have a quick scan through, see who's on the call today. Matt said hi, Kev. Keith, good to see you, Matt. Thank you. Steve, thanks for the feedback from yesterday, man. Alejandro, hola. And Phil, good to see the old man here too. And also another Phil, patron Phil, thank you. Great that you came through. Hello, Anton, nice to have you on board, mate. And Ellie Elspeth, good to see you again. And Danielle, neat to have you back, my friend. Okay, Wisconsin, Phil. Oh, fantastic place. Home of cheese making. I did a bit of cheese making when I was younger, and it's got a special pass for Wisconsin Cheese Awards. And Alan, nice to meet you, mate. Righto, so we're doing this little bit of introduction, saying hi, not apologising for yesterday. The sense of this being an important connection for all of us. You know, in realistic terms, you know, when I talk about isolation, I'm lucky if I meet another modeler, figure modeler, face to face, once every couple of years. Okay, once every couple of years. I tend to meet a new modeler, somebody who's interested in it, maybe once a year. They get, you know, interested by a figure. That's sometimes the only time I see them. Now that might be something about me, I'm not sure. I'd like to change that. So this connection online is critical to me. This opportunity to see, meet others, the social connection's fantastic. I've only ever been to 2 international shows, Chicago 2002 and Euro back in 2017. Both of those momentous occasions in my modelling career, and a real chance to just get a true flavour and feel for what was going on. A lot of what I do is shaped by those interactions, and it's shaped by the stuff that I've read and seen online. That's the reality of it. So as I said, this is probably more important to me to connect here than it is for some of you. Comments yesterday just in terms of who I'm pitching this at. Look, I'm pitching at anybody that wants to get into historical figure modelling. There's a lot of stuff on fantasy stuff out there. There's not a lot of historical modelers doing this sort of stuff. And I'd like to look if we can encourage those that are in it to get into it and to get amongst it. And I'd like to see if we can encourage some of those fantasy modelers and some new modelers into it to understand the power of representing and remembering and commemorating service over the years, right? As well as the interesting topic of that sort of dimension of our lives. That's sort of what this is about. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And I want to say thanks. I want to say thanks to the hundreds of people that have sort of connected, either watching the videos or have popped me through emails. It's been fabulous as part of my awakening in terms of who's out there. You know, one of the chaps I really admire from the early days, we might see a picture of his work a little bit later on, we'll see, but Derek Hansen was a historical figure artist in the UK. I think Derek's a 2D painter now, I'm not too sure, he moved on. However, at the time he wrote an article, it always had a profound effect on me. He said at the time that he thought there's about 10,000 figure modelers in the world. And that was back in the 80s. I think that's actually grown. I think it's actually expanded and grown out an enormous amount. And that's just evidenced by those that do spend the time socially connecting. And I think we're more connected than we've ever been in terms of this process. However, I think there's still a place for that historical thing. You know, we spend a lot of time online, we spend a lot of time connecting here, and I think there's some time to actually go back and think about the world that was then and leverage that as part of the process. All right, so today's topic's going to be about reference material. Before that, I just want to say hello to my mate Dave, fabulous to see you there. Pete Lloyd, awesome to see you, and I'll be passing on hi to Suzanne for you, mate. Great to see you. Trust things are going well. I know she's tough times for you. I'm hoping you'll be able to get out in the garden soon. Hi to see Alexander and Billy. Always inspired by your work, Billy. Look forward to seeing what you're working on at the moment, mate. Haven't seen stuff for a while. And Keith, we've already said hi. Righto, so reference material. What's that about? Before I get into that, let's take another look back to Uncle. All right, here he is back over here, sitting on the bench, okay, with that glary light tucked away there. Now realistically, let's just bring him around. The old stand's not working for me as I planned. Now the story of Uncle I shared yesterday, and I've got a couple of his hands, or 1.5 of his hands painted yesterday with everything else that's going on. However, I relayed the story about his, the inspiration behind him, and that's about the movie Journey's End. However, I've got an interest in First World War, and that's all part of the process. How do you get interested in the first place? So what's the initial inspiration? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a few books that I've got in my library here. It's only a small library. It's at the office. I'm going to be moving into my office shortly, and I'm going to be talking about some reflections on that. And by all means, if you've got some favourite books, what's your most important, most favourite historical modelling book that got you into it? For me, it's Shep Payne's How to Build Dioramas. Without a doubt, a standout book. And when I was in the modelling trade, I sold so many of those copies, so many copies of that particular book by Kalmbach. It was just incredible. And if you're into historical modelling and you don't have that on your shelf, that's one of the ones I'd hunt down for sure. Followed by Shep's How to Model Figures. Both of them incredible, and the inspiration they gave. They came out, you know, over 30, 40 odd years ago now, and sadly Shep's not with us. However, I'm stoked to have had a chance to have met him, and you know, his legacy continues through without a doubt. So for me, that's the book that stood out, and that was the inspiration in so many ways, just in terms of what was possible. Before that, I was a 1/35th scale armour modeller, did a bit of aircraft, had them hanging from the roof when I was a kid. That sort of stuff was the things that I did. However, I didn't really understand the breadth of what was possible and the detail behind it. Although I'd been subscribing to military modelling since I was a kid, I didn't get it comprehensively put together the way that Shep did it. And in particular, he introduced me to oil paints, which is something that I hadn't used or practiced before then. Okay, let's go on location team. We're going to the library and we're going to study some specific examples. Just say hi to Wayne. Trust you have a good day, cuz. And bonjour, Michelle. And hi, Glenn. Early day for work, mate. Good to see you there, eh? So just wait. I've just got to remove the label. Right. And forget that. And on location, folks, into the library. Now, I've decided to go like this because I wanted to be able to show you the covers without them being mirrored. So I've got a handful of books, 5 that I want to take you through, and each of them have a specific purpose, right? So I've got inspiration, I've got techniques, and then I've got accuracy. So those are the 3 topics that I'm going to be talking about in terms of reference material. And yes, there's a pile of stuff online. I'm a big fan of searching online. However, I think you wouldn't be a historical figure modeler if you didn't have a couple of books in your library. Now, you don't have to have these ones, and you need to have this balance of inspiration, techniques, and accuracy. Okay. Make sense? Hopefully that's of interest and of value. Let's have a flick through a few of these. We're going to start with this one here, which is an old classic. And it's probably a bit easier if I do it like that, right? You're looking at that sideshow. So the first section I'm going to be talking about is inspiration. So I've got a couple of books in terms of inspiration here that I wanted to share with you. Okay. This first one, Military Model Showcase. From the 90s, actually published in 92, so nigh on 30 odd years ago. 30 years ago, by Bill Horan. Okay, and in this book, Bill shares a pile of inspirational images. And as I was flicking through it this morning, I realized that a lot of the stuff I talked about yesterday in terms of story, figures, character, every single one of the photos in this is of that ilk. This is by an outfit, Greenhill Publishing, I think, did Euro Militaria. Now defunct, however, a lovely book. And the reason I've got that photo on the cover, who knows who did that painting, that figure on the cover? Hola, Carlos. And Harold, how you going, mate? Good to see you. Yeah, I know, Kev, you can never have too many books. Who wants to pop into the message thread? Who did the picture on the cover? And Rob, finally here, mate, you got to know who did the picture on the cover. Waiting. This is the interactive bit, folks. Who did that picture on the cover of this book? Pause. Okay. No. Oh, yeah, you're on the money there, Kev. Keith Durham sculpted it. Or did he? That's a Mike Good figure. Okay. So Mike did that for Post Militaire back in the day. Fabulous display with the figure and the horse, which made the difference. And top of the morning to you, Anthony. Good to see you, mate. Glad you made it on board. Really neat to see you. Okay. Goodness me, Rob, I hadn't realised you're so new to it, mate. But doing some fabulous work. Righto, so this is Bill's. Mike's on the cover there. Absolute classic. And as I mentioned, this book is just full of stuff. On the back is one of Bill's Horan's absolute classics. One of my favourites. I'm going to replicate a camel trooper one day. It'll be a Kiwi camel trooper from World War I. I've got a little project on the way to go. Okay, that is just an absolute standout. And, you know, Bill's been around and so good that commercial companies actually copy the work that he did as originals. Now, flipping through, final thoughts. Now, this is the work that really got us going. This is Shep Payne's original. And you can see when I talked about telling a story, this is a section that actually comes through on that. Just incredible, the work coming through in terms of these pages. It's hard to beat this. You know, how many times have you actually seen a Khmer elephant? It's probably the only time, and I think that's from the French show in Severus. And this classic, John Rosengrant, absolute legend, both in the film industry and the modelling industry. 92. So 30 odd years he was creating that. And that whole point about vignettes and dioramas telling a story, and there, believe it or not, is one of the early ones by Adrian Bay. Some of you might know Adrian, been around for some time. And look, Adrian, if you're seeing this, mate, I'm thinking of you and the family. I know she's pretty tough there in the UK at the moment. So this sort of stuff about inspiration, looking at every one of these photos. Another Mike Good paint-up. Mike used to be quite a painter in his day, not just sculpting. And this is the bust here. I'll just get the light off that one. That bust there was the very first bust that I painted. Not that one, clearly. But that's by Gary Drombowski. Never had the chance to meet Gary. But that was painted by Derek. And when I saw that bust, it was the first bust that myself and my mate Neil decided to get and see if we could replicate that. Other busts by Mike and Michelle Sears. So you can see every single one of them. Just let's have a quick look at this guy again, right? This is Mike's figures. And at the time, Mike, Bill and their ilk were travelling to Euro in the UK, which used to be the show, and they were sharing their work there. And it's part of the way they started the industry. Mike's one of the very few modelers that sort of managed to make a living over the years. As I said, this is, and where's this guy, folks? Julian Hullis, the absolute legend when it came to doing Mongols. Scratch building, single figures. The names of the guys